much.
No problem. How's the weather over in France?
Yes.
Nice, yeah?
Yes, from Lyon.
From Lyon
Leon,
town.
okay.
Lyon town, yeah.
Scotland.
Oh, yeah, of course. We know about you. Thank you very much to find time for speak with us.
No problem. Excuse the tanned face. I'm just back from Egypt, and so
Oh.
face, my hair's all bleached white. It's so hot in Egypt. 45 degrees, you know.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Summer Egypt.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
And it's nice to this country, Egypt.
Yeah. Very nice weather here in Scotland.
I buy your book.
Oh, well done.
Yes,
I'll sign it the
Yeah.
next time.
we have your book in English. In English, not in French.
Okay. Well, let's hope Jean gets it published in France. You know, that would be nice. Hello, John.
Hello, Jean.
Welcome, Jean.
He's not got his microphone on, I don't think.
Let's make up.
Jean Makeup.
Okay.
You are ready?
Yes, very much. Yeah.
So cool. So nice. Thanks. Many thanks. And Jean?
We're waiting for Jean.
No micro. No sound for Jean.
We can't hear Jean.
He's muted his microphone. He needs to unmute it.
Ah, yes.
Mhm.
He's- Your microphone.
Yeah, you need the microphone. And tell us, you have an open mind in Scotland about UFOs. People in Scotland have an open mind
Yeah,
about.
very much so. Yes, we do. We do believe that there's something flying in the skies of not just Scotland, but the whole world. So we are indeed very open-minded here in Scotland. You'll always in France and America, you'll always get skeptics, but in the main, people are aware that strange things are indeed flying in the Scottish skies.
And the paranormal, it's ordinary life in Scotland. You have a lot of paranormal cases.
Yeah, quite a few. Yes, our society deal with ghosts, poltergeists, UFOs, and also Nessie. So we work in a whole range of different things. But there are many bizarre, ghostly stories in Scotland, and that's why I write the books, just to get these stories out. You know. But yes, to answer your question, Scotland is awash with historic ghostly castles. And that's why I love the subject so much. It's so beautiful.
And it's for a long time ago, I think.
Yeah, very much. I mean, obviously, UFO sightings and ghost sightings go through antiquity. You know, they're not just a modern day phenomena, as you know. Ghostly sightings in Scotland go way back thousands of years, and they're still ongoing. And I'm a spiritualist. I firmly believe in life after death. The evidence given to me has been so overwhelming. You know, I'm still skeptical. I'm still skeptical on ghosts, poltergeists, UFOs. You've got to be. As a researcher, you have to be open-minded and also skeptical. But having said all that, the evidence is so overwhelming that we are indeed being visited by beings from off-world, from different planets. Hello, Jean.
Hello, Jean.
Hello.
So
Yes. Hey.
I'm not used to
Welcome,
StreamYard.
Jean. Welcome.
I'm not used to StreamYard and such. So you hear me well? You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
To me, the sound is low for on your side. I don't know how to.
No, it's good. It's
To
good
you, it's
fun.
okay, Paula.
Yeah,
Yes.
for us it's okay. We hear you. We hear you. Very good. And Malcolm too.
Okay. It's just for me to hear Malcolm if I have to.
Yes, can you hear me okay, Jean? I'm speaking to you now. You
Thing
okay? Can you hear
to
me?
me, it's very weak. Is audio.
I'll turn it up a little
Okay.
touch. Is that better? I've increased the volume of the microphone.
Okay.
No.
I hardly listen. I cannot listen well, and I don't know how to. But we'll do that way.
As long
Is-
as you can hear me a little, you know, to ask any questions, yeah?
Yeah.
Ye-
You
Are
wrote
you
a very interesting book. It's the UFO Case Files of Scotland, first volume. Amazing real life alien.
yeah.
I'll
We
be
know
back.
it's not easy to believe in the UFO. No, your work begin in many cases of UFO in Scotland. You have experience from 40 years.
Yes, very much so. I started out as a skeptic in 1979 to disprove all these subjects. I honestly felt there were no validity to these claims. But it's like anything else in life, once you're there, once you get your hands dirty, once you physically speak to people, you soon realize there's no smoke without fire. And I soon it became apparent that all these cases that I was investigating were real, were true. People wanted answers. The vast majority of UFO reports have natural, identifiable solutions. We're only speaking about 5% that cannot be explained. 3% of the 5 are probably natural things like comets, satellites, space debris, the space station. The 2% that remain of the 5, 1% could be a rare atmospheric phenomena, something akin to ball lightning. The 1%, the
1%.
1%,
Yeah. Oh,
for
I
me
understand.
and for everybody else, that shouldn't be there. We cannot understand what this 1% is. And it's to the 1% of sightings, which on a global basis is phenomenal, that we're trying to understand. But I do believe we're being visited. Absolutely. We are being visited by beings from perhaps not off planet. It may be interdimensional. They may have bases under the oceans in this planet. So, but I think I go along with Jacques Vallée, who believes it's dimensional. Science is learning all the time. We're learning about quarks, neutrinos, superstring theory. There's many vibrations and frequencies that we don't currently understand. We know that animals, cats and dogs, can hear and see things that we humans can't. So it's a lot to do with frequencies, I think.
And
Okay.
you are investigator with a lot of experience. What you think today um, of ufology in England, in England and in Scotland? The people, it's much more than the past interest, or
Yeah, very much so. I think the interest in UFOs in Great Britain as a whole is on the up, simply because a lot of more young people are, for the first time, getting actively involved. They're joining UFO groups. There's a lot of really good UFO programs on the television here in Great Britain. And when I was a wee boy, you only had about 3 television stations, and we were heavily one-sided, saying nonsense, you know. But now we have lots of television stations giving the viewers in the Great Britain an understanding that UFOs, whatever they may be, are the real deal, are bona fide. So to answer your question, the interest in United Kingdom on UFOs is definitely growing. It's definitely getting much more in the public domain. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay.
Jean,
Merci.
you have a question, Jean.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, Malcolm, so hello again. Thank you very much for this, allowing us this interview. You have met Paula and Francois. I
Thank
guess
you.
they have told you they are UFO investigators.
Yeah.
They traveled in other countries. They traveled in Russia. They traveled in Great Britain, in many countries. They traveled to Spain. They are Spanish speaking, as you say. They are English speaking as well.
A little bit.
A
Just a
little
little bit.
So we are partners now with a few other people. The idea is to create a channel, a small YouTube channel, something simple to start with, in order to be able to invite guests, French people. There are a lot of French people to invite, of course, but also foreign investigators, foreign authors, or of course will be focused on UFO studies, maybe other issues as well. So Paula and Francois agree with me that this is desperately, dramatically missing in France. We need to welcome persons like you, investigators, because it's incredible. We have the channel across between France and United Kingdom, and most people in the UFO community don't even know even the names of the British investigators. Isn't that true, Francois?
Yeah, it's
People
true.
don't know the name. So
The French need to know about.
need to know.
Need to know. Well, and also the French bad speak English in France. No,
Yeah.
it's not easy to find UFO books in French in France. And thank you, Jean, for translate a lot of books for flying disc.
Yeah. Yeah. We cannot make people guilty for not being fluent in English, but the or in French, but the media should allow people to hear investigators from all over the world. That's what is news about. We know about politics in the United States, politics in Russia, politics in China, in Italy, in England, but we don't know the investigators from Germany, from Italy, from United States, from Great Britain. And that's where we're going to start with you, with your help. Malcolm, thank you for being there, and with many others. Of course, we plan to invite Philip Mantle, but there is much to do. Francois will have his own ideas. He will propose guests, and we will have a lot to do. So thank you again. So the idea for this interview, which we plan with Paula and Francois, another friend we'll meet soon, is to introduce you as an investigator from the end of the 70s or the beginning of the 80s, and of course a basic description of the Desmond Woods case, because it is an important case, and because actually this book has been translated. I was fortunate, honored to translate this book with your permission, Malcolm. Yes. So, and then Malcolm, to ask you to understand that it is a process. We don't want to invite you once and describe all your work. No, we ask you to be a regular guest with us in order to talk about maybe the update in ufology in the world today, but speak on your other books, the A70 case, and the major.
The most case,
and you have a big experience of investigator, and the people want to know about your work. How you come to investigate in the UFO. It's very interesting to know your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Malcolm, Um, we have planned with we had the idea with another friend to have you listen to a piece of music from the end of the 70s. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you like to listen a piece of music from 1979?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Paola, we have it.
Non,
We
tu
have
me
the
l'as pas
video.
transmise. Eh ben non, je l'ai pas, tu me l'as pas envoyé.
François,
I don't know.
No.
ah non, je t'ai pas dit.
Eh
No.
non.
Ah, attends. Si, si je le si je le passe là, ah bon, il te l'a pas
Eh ben oui,
envoyé.
puis on va
C'est
l'entendre,
bizarre
yes.
ça.
Yes.
C'est enfin c'est. Mais normalement il nous l'a envoyé à tout le monde.
Oh.
C'est it is a friend who is working with us now presently, but Ahmed, yeah. Attends. Oh, wait, let's think.
Just while you're
Wait,
finding that, John,
think.
I just want to say
Ah,
to Paolo and Francisca that
listen, I think I have it here. You can, if you can listen to it.
okay.
It's a piece of music. You know what it is, of course.
It's
Mais
not
non, c'est
Italian
pas
music.
ça. That's not this one. That's yes. That's this is a YouTube with you, Malcolm. Anyway, I'll find it some maybe later. It is a piece of Dire Straits, you know, the famous Dire Straits.
Sultans of Swing.
So if I find it in a minute, I'll tell you. Anyway, the idea, Malcolm, in this PowerPoint we have your picture in 1979. Tu peux la montrer à François, Paola,
Oui.
l'une des premières images.
Oui.
Alors moi j'ai quoi que
Non.
j'ai Robert Taylor et non, je n'ai pas le.
Au début, voilà.
Ici.
Ah yes.
Voilà.
Yes.
Anyway, here we are. Here we are, Malcolm.
I haven't
Okay.
changed.
You
Yeah.
haven't. Anyway, do you want to tell us how you started in the your studies, your UFO studies at this time? What it was at the end of the 70s and beginning of the 80s?
Yeah, I've always been interested in strange phenomena and the paranormal and UFOs. Ever since I was a small boy growing up in Scotland, I held this deep fascination for all things weird and wonderful. And I started to read the books of various authors, ghost books, UFO books. I watched Star Trek. I watched The Day the Earth Stood Still and Forbidden Planet. All these sci-fi movies all gave me this passion and this interest as a small boy growing up. And then I started to read the books of Charles Berlitz, Jacques Vallée, Jenny Randalls, and I went, can there really be something in these UFOs? Are UFOs truly real? You know, and at that point in my life, I thought that it was just nonsense. And I set out in 1979 to disprove the fact that there were UFOs and ghosts and poltergeists. But as I continued my journey, I soon discovered these things are real. Whatever is going on in the skies of the world is real. Yes, there's a lot of nonsense out there. Yes, there's a lot of charlatans and hoaxers. But once you get rid of that, you're looking at bona fide, real machines flitting about the skies of France and the United Kingdom and America. So what we do with investigations, John, is with any given UFO sighting, we check with the police to see if the gendarme, to see if any reports have been generated came into the police stations. We check with the Ministry of Defence to see if there were any air traffic in the air at the time. We check with the weather stations to see if there were any release of weather balloons. So we dot the I's and cross the T's and try and find out what was seen in the skies. The vast majority have natural explanations, but the small percent of UFO sightings in Scotland and the United Kingdom has clearly shown to me that we're dealing with a real bona fide phenomena, something very, very real, very tangible. We're dealing with what we call greys, small grey creatures, roughly about 3.5 to 4 feet tall, pear-shaped heads, black inky almond-shaped eyes, small grey, bluey, translucent bodies. And some of these objects are so close that you could throw a stone at. Now, in Bonnybridge, it's a town in central Scotland. It's seen a lot of UFO sightings over the years. Myself and Councillor Billy Buchanan have been down to 10 Downing Street with a petition asking the British government to come to Scotland and open up a government inquiry into UFO sightings in Scotland. We've also been to Whitehall and Westminster. We've approached various Prime Ministers, Gordon Brown, Tony Blair. Recently, last year, Rishi Sunak, we went down to 10 Downing Street again. Has it worked? No, it hasn't, because what they're saying is, as these objects do not constitute a threat to the defence of the United Kingdom, the British government will not seek to open up any government inquiry. We're very upset by this because we know we're dealing with something real in the skies of Scotland. And we just want the government to come clean. Do they know more than they're letting on? Perhaps they do. And it's my job and my colleagues here in Scotland to try and keep knocking on doors to try and get answers, because all we do as researchers are try to get it's like a jigsaw puzzle, pieces from France and Belgium and Australia, put it all together. What is the bigger picture? What is the understanding?
Un puzzle, hein? Jigsaw, un puzzle. Labyrinthe.
Yeah. And for me, at this point in my life in 2024, I'm firmly convinced we're dealing with something not real. What is the agenda? What is the agenda of these small grey beings? Because they're continually doing these UFO abductions. They're taking people from their homes, from their cars, from their villages, and experimented on. They are very traumatized by this. And I've dealt with one case in Scotland, the A70 case, which, wow, that just blew my mind with these small grey creatures. But I believe on this podcast, you would like to discuss the Decmont Woods incident. Is that correct, John?
Yes. Thank you very much for this presentation. We see if Paula and Francois have a question right now. But to say what we have planned, true, thank you for the introduction. So, as we are in the end of the 70s, you are like, I think, 22 years old or 23. I checked. So you were just a beginner, arguably, in investigation. Yeah. So at a very early age, you were confronted to a major case, because Desmond Woods, the Robert Taylor case, the Livingstone case is a major case. So how can you describe first this experience as a 22, 23 young man being confronted to such a case? What was it?
Well, yeah, I first of all heard about the Decmont Woods case, a newspaper article, and I got in touch with the journalist and I asked if it's possible to contact the witness. Surprisingly, he gave me the witness's telephone number. So I telephoned the witness, Robert Taylor. I arranged for me to go over to his home in Deans, near Livingston in central Scotland. And I went along with a colleague, and he sat me down in his chair and he told me the following story, which I'll briefly tell you and your colleagues. Now, before I tell the story, Robert Taylor was a war hero. He fought over in France in D-Day 5, went over to Normandy, D-Day 5, and his tank regiment helped liberate Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. So he was a war hero. He had no interest in UFOs whatsoever. It just, you know, he had heard about them on television and newspapers, but he had no interest in that. But after the war, he settled back in Scotland and he was employed by the Livingston Development Corporation in the forestry department. And his job was to ensure that no cattle or sheep strayed into the woods. Very, very mundane job. On the morning of November the 9th, 1979, he got in his pickup truck. He was accompanied to Decmont Woods by his Irish red setter dog, Lara. A beautiful, beautiful dog. So they're driving in the truck. They got out of the truck and they walked down this forestry path. Trees to the left, trees to the right, walk, walk, walk. Then you opened up into a clearing, about a 40, 50, 60-foot clearing in the woods, and he was astonished. He could not believe what he was looking at. About 40 feet hovering above the grass was this large dome-shaped craft.
You say 40 feet high?
40 feet from the grass, yeah.
Okay.
And it had a flange going around its perimeter with cross-like projections sticking up from the flange. And he's looking at this. He couldn't believe what he's looking at. What is this, you know? And then parts of it disappeared and it solidified. It dematerialized and solidified. And then just when the situation couldn't get any more bizarre, it did. For what resembled 2 Second World War sea mines. Those spherical mines that you got in the North Atlantic with the spikes sticking out, bobbing in the North Atlantic. Very, very similar to that. Bang! Dropped down from beneath this object, impacted on the grass, and started rolling across the grass towards him. And he's like, whoa. They stopped and they projected these spikes to his trousers and pulled him upwards and forwards.
Yes, many trays for the pants.
Yeah, and I actually have the ripped trousers here with me, which were
Oh,
ripped.
Trousers. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the which I'll come back to. So at that point, he remembers a horrible burning smell pervading the area and a swishing sound, and then he lost consciousness. When he regained consciousness, there were over 40 holes and marks in the grass with track-like marks. He had a nasty graze under his chin. He had a graze on his forehead. And he went back to his pickup truck and tried to radio his boss, his manager. But he couldn't speak. He had lost his voice. So somehow he managed to reverse the truck into a ditch, and the back wheels are spinning in the ditch. So he had to abandon the truck, and he crawled back to his wife, to his home in Deans. And when his wife saw him, she went, "What's happened to you?"
What happened?
And because his jersey was all muddy, his trousers were torn, and he said that he's been attacked. So they got the local doctor in. He attended the family house. He checked over Bob Taylor's health. He had an elevated heart, and he kept going on about the smell. And then the police became involved because it was an assault by person or persons unknown. The police attended the forest. They saw the marks in the grass. They fenced off the area. And, you know, to this day, it's one of the most incredible UFO cases in Scotland, but there are alternative theories to explain it.
And the police
Can you
find
show?
the holes. The police find the holes in the grass.
Yes, they did. And I
And
interviewed...
Spike marks.
Yeah. And I
Can you show?
interviewed
Est-ce que tu peux mettre, Paola? Tu peux montrer les marques,
Oui.
s'il te plaît?
Voilà.
Yes.
That's
Ouais,
it.
ouais, c'est deux, oui, au moins. This one, for instance, Malcolm, this
Yes.
is the spike mark, right?
Presumably these are marks by these spiky objects that was left on the grass. And these marks in the grass were not there the previous day. There were no marks there the previous day. So the police said that whatever caused these marks came down and went up. There were no sign of any similar marks anywhere else in the forest.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the round mark was made by the little sphere.
Yes, yes.
On a une autre image pour les marques
Oui.
rondes. Il y en a une
Marque
autre.
ronde.
Ça, c'est
On
les
va revenir.
spikes. Et
Yes.
à la fin.
Sur la
Non,
fin,
je l'ai mis.
plutôt.
Non, je l'ai mis au début, effectivement. Il y a celle-là, et juste avant. Non? Ah ben, je ne l'ai pas mis alors.
No,
Ou alors c'est toi qui. Ouais, c'est toi qui l'avais mis, oui, d'accord. Attends, remonte le plan, peut-être
S'il vous plaît.
encore.
Celle-ci.
Non, encore l'autre plan. Encore. Là. So, yes. L'autre, juste avant.
Yep.
Mais non, le plan que tu venais de montrer, voilà. Alors, can you describe this drawing, Malcolm? Because for people who don't know the case, it is important. So, how the spike mark are the central mark, the rectangular mark are the other one. Can you help us understand for people who don't know the case?
Okay, well, obviously, the figure F is Robert Taylor as he's standing looking at this object.
Yeah,
in front
of course,
Robert Taylor is all these marks in the grass. There were circular and triangular marks in the grass, and also two what looked like or resembled ladder-like marks in the grass. But what you're looking at is presumably these smaller marks were made by these spiky balls as they rolled about the grass, rolled about the area. And so these marks are made by the spiky balls. Now, the ladder-like marks were not so sure what made them, but clearly that is part and parcel of what transpired on that eventful morning. Skeptics have suggested perhaps it was Robert Taylor's dog that was making these marks as it was nervous. It was running about the area. It saw its master was lying prone on the ground. Maybe the dog made these marks. But the police said that that's not like marks made by a family dog. So we don't think it was that.
It's not possible.
So not only do we have the marks on the grass as evidence, but we also have the ripped trousers as evidence as well, which Robert Taylor was wearing on that eventful morning of November the 9th, 1979. Now, these trousers were examined by the police forensic department in Edinburgh, and a gentleman by the name of Lester Knibb said that these trousers were ripped in an upwards manner. In other words, they were attached by something, pulled upwards, and they were not made by any forest debris like sharp stones or sharp twigs or barbed wire. His opinion, a police officer, said they were made in a mechanical manner, pulled upwards, and it lends great credibility to the testimony of Robert Taylor as a wonderful witness and a wonderful man who had no interest in UFOs, and then suddenly he was catapulted into the twilight zone. And one could ask the question, was he in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time? We don't know.
Wrong place, yes, of course.
So, yeah, Malcolm, how long have you seen Robert Taylor in the years after? Have you kept contact with him until he passed away? Because it's a famous case. So did he speak for many years on radio, on TV?
Yeah, I kept in touch with the witness for many years prior to his death, and I think it was 2017. And he always said to me, Malcolm, how I wish you had have been there to see what I saw. And he also said, how I wish my dog could speak, because, he just wanted me to see what he had seen. And he was a pillar of the community.
Si le chien avait pu parler.
Yeah, he was a
of course.
man. Yeah.
Of course. But we believe in this robotic explorer of maybe another dimension. Maybe another dimension.
It's a possibility because, when we talk about dimensions, what Robert Taylor saw, this big dome-shaped object, was there and it was disappearing. It was solidifying and dematerializing. So it was flitting in and flitting out of possibly dimensions. If it was a structured craft, you would imagine it to be there all the time, like, an airplane or a car or whatever. But because it was a strange thing, it was just moving in and out of, you could see the young trees behind it. You could see the young trees behind it. And I was there the following day. I saw the marks in the grass myself, and it was just astonishing to be there. And over the years, we managed to get a cairn, which is a large stone boulder placed at the site with a brass plaque commemorating this site. And then a few years ago, I got what's known as signage, big signs in the woods so people could follow the UFO trail. They have that at the Rendlesham Forest. We have a UFO trail in Rendlesham. So I said, we need one in Decmont Woods. So we managed to get marker posts where people can walk into the woods, because people were traveling from all over the world to find this wonderful spot, and they couldn't find it. So once the signage went up, all the signs, they went, great, we got it.
Fascinating spot. Yes.
Yeah.
So the city hall, the councillor agreed to do it with you.
Yeah.
It's a very serious matter in this case. Very, very serious. It's not a classic flying saucer. It's different. It's very strange. It's different.
And that's what makes it most peculiar, Francis, is that because it doesn't conform to a large black triangular craft. It doesn't conform to your typical flying saucer shape with two soup plates joined to them. And that's the puzzling thing. We have so many different variations of
very different
the sky. So many different, but it doesn't take away from the testimony of this wonderful, wonderful man who, how I wish I had been there when he saw that myself. Oh, I should point out that on the weeks prior to the sighting and the weeks after the sighting, many UFOs had been seen in the sky by people in surrounding areas, about 1 mile to 2 miles away, leading up to the big case on the November the 9th and afterwards as well. So it was witnesses to UFOs in the Dean's Decmont area. There were quite a lot of UFO sightings in that area before and after Robert Taylor's sighting.
Yeah, it is a bit the same that what happened with the Pascagoula case. Philip Mantle studied much about the Pascagoula case, which occurred.
Yes.
Yes, I see it.
Beautiful. Amazing. There were many sightings around 11th of October 1973 in Pascagoula, Mississippi. In the weeks before, there were a lot of sightings in the same area in Mississippi, in the surrounding states. And don't forget, must not forget that it is a 1973 UFO wave, UFO flap, as they say, across United States, but all over the world. So in 1973, there were a lot of sightings, and October 1973 was a peak of the 1973 UFO flap. So it is an important thing for Pascagoula. One question, precisely, Francois refers to this question, interdimensional travel, interdimensional object and beings. Of course, these are very important issue question, metaphysical question, scientific question issues to broaden our thinking. But more precisely, you know that in one of the major cases, which is le cas de Béa, comment s'appellent les deux époux, Paola, les époux, oui, the Betty, excuse me, Betty and Barney Hill. Barney Hill saw beings he has seen beings through the windows of the craft. He has declared that consciously and through hypnotic session as well. So I think I remember that Robert Taylor has seen beings through the windows. Or am I wrong?
No, he never claimed to see any
No.
beings through windows. But when you mentioned about hypnosis, John, Robert Taylor was hypnotized. He was regressed. But
Yes.
Yeah.
he was regressed to that morning of November the 9th, 1979, and then bang, it was just blackness. He could not remember. Once he lost consciousness, blackness. He could not remember
Oh.
anything. And it's
Blackout.
yeah, it's just total blackout. Yeah.
Okay, I thought I had seen that or read that. Maybe I saw an image, a picture, a drawing by someone, but it was just a creation. I thought he had maybe put that in a regression session, but
Maybe it
it
was
was
an
not
A70.
possible to.
Maybe the
regress.
A70 case. A70 case.
Yeah, you have many insolvent cases on this period in United Kingdom.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, are you aware of the A70 case? The A70 case? No?
So can you introduce
No.
this amazing case and for which you wrote a book? Maybe hopefully we'll have it translated into French in some time with your agreement, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the A70 case is one of Scotland's biggest UFO cases as well. And it's a big story, but I'll try and be very, very brief. It happened in August 1992. Gary Wood and Colin Wright were travelling from Edinburgh, the capital city of Scotland, big buildings, and were travelling in their car to visit some friends in a small village called Tarbrax. So once they left Edinburgh, the road just goes out and it's fields, farmers' fields, solitude, a reservoir, little houses, fields. Driving down this road, and then suddenly Colin, who was in the passenger seat, said to Gary, "What the hell is that?" Because about 50, 60 yards further down the road, above the surface of the road, was this large, black, two-tiered, shiny UFO hovering. And they went, "Wow, what's going on?" Now, again, these witnesses had no interest in UFOs. They'd heard about them. And they went, "Oh, is it a helicopter? Is it an aircraft? What is this?" So if you can imagine my hand here is a UFO, this is a car. As the car is directly underneath this object, it emitted a heavy silver shimmering curtain of mist, like misty effect hit the car. And as soon as that effect hit the car, both men were enveloped in total and inky blackness. They couldn't see their hands. They couldn't see the dashboard of the car. They couldn't see each other. Are we dead? They thought they were dead. Then thankfully they got their sight back and they found that the car was on the other side of the road. They had to pull the steering wheel onto the left-hand side of the road. Here in the UK, we drive on the left. And they didn't stop. They raced to their destination of Tarbrax and they knocked on the occupant's door. Nothing. And eventually a window opened up in the house above and the lady of the house says, "What time do you call this?" What do you mean? "You're an hour and a half late." Now the journey, Francois, should only have taken about 30 minutes and they're an hour and a half over that. And so they proceeded to go into the home and they spoke about the strange craft that they had seen. That night and subsequent nights thereafter, they found scars on their body that previously were not there. How did this happen? Then Gary, one of the witnesses, said, "Surely this cannot be one of those crazy UFO stories. But what if it is? Who do you turn to?" So long story short, Francois, he went to the library and he picked out a book on UFOs, which had my address at the back of the book. He telephoned me and I talked to Gary and Colin on the phone and I says, "Guys, would you be interested in going under hypnotic regression, perhaps to see if perhaps something else might have happened that night? There's no guarantees. Something might have happened, maybe not. Oh, yes, yes, we need to know what happened, Malcolm. So we got a qualified hypnotherapist, and we regressed both men back to that night. And this is what happened under hypnosis. The conscious recall, Francois and Paula, was only I've ever seen this UFO in the sparkling light. That's the conscious recall. Under hypnosis, this is what happened. The car was stopped. Approaching the car was 4 or 5 small grey beings, you know, the large pear-shaped heads, and they were taking on presumably on board this object. They were stripped naked. Gary was placed on a flat table, and he says, Malcolm, I couldn't move a muscle. I desperately wanted to hit one of these small greys, but I couldn't move. I could only move my eyes. And he remembers seeing a can-shaped device about so high come up from the floor to the side of his head and move round his head. The purpose of that, we don't know. Was it a medical device or something? He also remembers 2 small grey beings at the foot of this flat bed, and one of them was holding a pendulum and moving it around his body. And he says, Malcolm, I felt my inside, my stomach was turning as if somebody's hand was inside my stomach and pulling on my entrails. It was horrible. And Colin found himself encased in this glass or perspex tube. He was naked. He was tied down, and he couldn't move. He could only move his eyes. But to the left and to the right, he saw other naked females, males, females, young, old, and there was a sort of mist pervading all around these canisters. And another strange aspect of this case was when Gary started to tell me something, and then he stopped. I says, tell me, please tell me. But you'll laugh at me. I says, I won't laugh at you. Tell me what it is. He says, well, he was lying on this table, and he looked down to the left, and he saw a naked female, about 18, 19 years of age, with her knees up under her chin, with her arms around her knees, and she gently turned her head and looked at me, and she had tears running down her face. He says, Malcolm, she looked so sad, so forlorn. It was, I'll never forget her face. Now, there were some differences with this case, Francois and Paula. The differences were that some of these greys had red, yellow, and green marks under their eyes. Some of these greys had what looked like ribs, because on one occasion, Gary was lying down, he couldn't move, and he saw coming up from the floor of this object a small grey being coming out of this liquid gel. And I said, in the drawings that he did, I says, is that ribs? He went, no, I think it's heavy folds of skin. Heavy folds of skin. There was also some brown-coloured creatures as well, with heart-shaped heads, you know, not the pear-shaped heads, but a heart-shaped head. And myself and my colleagues interviewed Gary and Colin for several months, and boy, wow, they were fantastic people. They were not making it up. They didn't want to go to the media, which eventually happened, but that's another story. They just wanted the truth out because they were getting ridiculed by their workmates and colleagues. Gary's wife refused to believe her husband. You would have thought she would have believed him. And then one night, she telephoned me at my home, and she says, Malcolm, I was lying in my bed reading a book. Gary, who was the witness, was lying next to me, but he was sleeping, reading a book, closed the book, put it on the bedside cabinet, and then about 30 seconds later, she says, Malcolm, I felt my ankles being grabbed by small, childlike hands pulling me forcibly down the bed, whereas my head was on the pillow, it's now halfway down. And she looked, and she could see 3 small grey beings released their ankles in shock, and they just went through the wall and shimmered through the wall and disappeared. Now, Gary, one of the witnesses in this case, passed a BBC lie detector test. And I honestly believe that the A70 case is an astonishing case. And it's Scotland's first reported UFO abduction. There may well be others, Jean. There may well be others, but it's the first reported one to our society, and boy, it was a classic.
Thank you. Are you in contact with them still, Malcolm? Are you still in contact with witnesses?
Well, when I wrote the book on it, I was in contact with Gary. Colin, sadly, wants nothing more to do with it. And Gary has now latterly went off the scene. He's went off the radar, which is a great, great shame. Because for every one person who comes forward and said, I saw a UFO, there may be 5 people who also saw that UFO behind them who won't come forward for fear of ridicule. They don't want the ridicule. So I think that's what it is, John. They just don't want the ridicule anymore, you know.
And tell us how many time, how missing time in this case, how missing time. You know.
Well, with that case,
how long was the missing time? 1 hour, 2 hours?
About an hour and 25 minutes missing time. And you know, and we did several hypnotic regression sessions with them. They were on board this craft. They saw strange things. Gary saw a strange black-shaped thing moving around his head, etc. And there was so much involved with this case, you know. Does hypnosis give us the answers? Well, it's like the sluice gates of the mind is getting pulled up and all tumble. We have to be careful because people can lie under hypnosis. There's something known as cryptomnesia, which means that you've read something as a small boy, or Paula as a small girl, you've read it and you forgot about it. But under hypnosis, that story may well come up and you think it's something to do with you. So we have to be careful. But the good thing is the police use hypnosis in certain cases. So if the police can use it, then why not UFO investigators, you know?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Malcolm, thank you for that. You are talking about Desmond Wood, A70. I think it's very important for French people who don't know much about major cases in Great Britain. You have been invited by the media BTLV 2 years ago. It's a good thing. The Rendlesham case was in 1980, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think we can make a connection one way or another? Because it's with the Desmond Wood, I mean,
yeah, I mean, obviously
difficult to say.
Desmond Woods was November 1979. Rendlesham was December 1980. And it was a different craft that was seen. Rendlesham Forest obviously was a massive, massive case with a lot of military involved. Incidentally, we have a witness just recently came forward who said that as a small boy, he went up to Desmond Woods a few hours after Robert Taylor had seen that UFO. And what did he see? He saw a lot of military personnel. That is the first time I've heard that. That is news to me. Now, here's another interesting thing, Paolo and Francisca. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong.
No, it's easy. It's easy.
Okay.
It's okay for us.
Francois, is it Francois?
Yeah.
So this is something else that came to my attention a few months ago. A gentleman said to me he was walking his dogs in Desmond Woods, big dogs. These dogs are not frightened of anything. And I trust this man. I truly trust him and believe him. And he says, Malcolm, wow, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I went, pray tell. He's walking his dogs with his friend, and then he suddenly saw like a flash, woof, something moving, like a man moving fast, about 50 yards in front of him. Was that somebody running? Then his dogs were walking with him, and then he stopped. And he started snarling, he started growling. And he says, Malcolm, my dogs never do that. They never ever growl at anything. They're not frightened of anything. And then suddenly, and this is his testimony, Francois, suddenly he said, about 20 feet away was this tall figure. He called it like a kind of wolf man. It had a big snout, furry face, and burning red eyes, standing there, horrible, menacing looking, staring at him. And he got the fright of his life. And he says, I have never seen anything like this in my life. Now, this was in Decmet Woods. And we call it a dog man or a wolf man. These have been sighted in other UFO hotspots throughout the world, these creatures. It's not like the Sasquatch or Bigfoot,
Yes.
this is separate. So again, it's another aspect of strangeness that we could look at with Decmet Woods, yeah.
Or Loch Ness in Scotland, Loch Ness.
It's also very, very strange cases. Very, very strange cases, not classic.
Yeah, I was fortunate, Paula, to go down in a submarine in Loch Ness in 1994. I went down to a depth of about 800 feet, and what it was a wonderful experience. I love Nessie, by the way. I love Nessie.
Did you think if the UFO phenomenon control our perception, our mind perception?
A very good question, Francois, and I think it's a valid question. Can UFOs, aliens, change our perception? Whitley Strieber, as we know, said that he initially saw owls. They changed into small greys, but they wanted him to see a familiar thing in the woods, which was an owl, before they changed into a small grey. So I do believe, personally, that when you're close to a UFO or a being, they can change your perception. They have powers to change your mental capacity to see, because we know that a lot of the communication is telepathic. We can't hear them speak. We just know that they're saying something to us in our heads. So they can, yes, I do believe that they can change our perception. Are we truly seeing what we are seeing or what they want us to see? These craft in the sky may just be like drones. They may not be piloted. They'd just be like little drones that we send over to, here on planet Earth. We use drones. So I think only some are probably piloted, but people say that they're also reptilians. And, I have never, ever dealt with any case in Scotland to deal with a reptilian. I only have dealt with cases to do with the small greys. Now, that's not to say we don't have reptilian cases in Scotland. We may well have, but I don't know if you have them in France. Maybe you do.
No, in Italy, Spain, yes, with a reptilian. Spain,
Reptilian and greys.
Spain case,
Spanish cases.
Spanish case.
And Italian cases with greys and reptilians. Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly somebody is watching Planet Earth with prying eyes, but the big problem is, what is the agenda? What is their agenda? If people say that maybe Planet Earth is a zoo, in other words, they seeded us here, it's nothing to do with Darwin or Christianity, that this alien species put us here on planet Earth, and all these UFO abductions they're trying to change our molecular structure, they're trying to change us, I don't know. That's only speculation. That's not truth. That's pure speculation on my part.
Speculations, yeah.
But
of course,
what angers me, Francois, is that why are they taking people, males and females? Why are they still abducting people and taking sperm and ova from males and females? They say it's to generate a dying planet, but these UFO abductions have been going on now for over 50, 60, 70 years. So surely they've got enough genetic information that they don't need that. Some people have speculated maybe it's our souls. Maybe they're trying to find out where our souls are. I don't have the answers, and I don't think anybody truly in the world has. We just have speculations.
Many speculations and fakes in these cases. So it's not easy to find the truth.
It's not easy, no. I mean, that's what makes it all the more exciting, is that we as researchers here in this podcast are trying to get to the truth. We know that not all is what it seems. We know that a lot of it is nonsense. But like I said before, it's like a big wire mesh tray where all the stones you're shaking it and all the rubbish is coming through the wire mesh. And what you're left is these kernels of stones that won't go through the mesh. And by that analogy, I'm trying to say that these are specific cases that you and I, Jean, everybody in France and the UK, we just want answers to. And I do hope we'll get it in my lifetime. I mean, for me, they're there anyway. They're here. They're real. Absolutely real. Yes. But the purpose, the agenda, that's the puzzling thing.
And what the young
Yeah.
generation in Scotland and in the United Kingdom, what the young generation think about the disclosure, the disclosure of the UFO subject today? He waiting for a real disclosure?
I think they are, yes, Paolo. They are looking for UFO disclosure. And I think over the last 2 or 3 years, America and the Pentagon and NASA have been actively involved in the study of UFOs. And the young people in Scotland have been looking at the news media. They have seen that the USS Theodore Roosevelt, the USS Nimitz, have dispatched Navy jets to pursue these massive big objects called a tic-tac. And the G-force with the tons of these objects is astronomical. And if that's our own technology, by God, why are we not using it? So to answer your question, Francois, the young people are looking what's coming out of America. That America is now finally putting their hand up and saying, yes, they are strange things in the sky. We're looking into it. We don't know what's going on. And well, they should. Well, they should, because NORAD, has got its eyes on the skies in America. NORAD is a big system.
Yeah,
checking out satellites.
The NORAD see.
Absolutely. And I do believe that America and possibly France, certainly Britain, know more than they're letting on. If they know more, does that mean it's not a threat? So when the Ministry of Defence in London says, Malcolm, there's no threat, we're not interested, is that because they are aware of what's going on? If we're dealing with a superior, technologically advanced people coming to planet Earth, we are insignificant. We may well be insignificant. It's just like we see sheep in a field or cattle. We pick up a stone in our garden and we see little ants. We are so insignificant to these people. Yes, they're interested in us, but it's still why? Why do we have these sightings?
Is the question.
And I just love this. I love the subject.
Do you think it's a good moment for disclosure in the
Revelation? Yes.
revelations this year's now? Why now?
Well, I think because certain senators, they put the push on the American CIA and the NSA to release the footage by the Navy pilots. So they had to come clean. So I think over the next 2 or 3 years, fingers crossed, we may get more revelations coming forward. But the problem we have with that is back in 2001 in America, at the prestigious press club, we had Navy generals, Air Force generals, Army generals on their uniforms, all ready to tell what they saw in the skies. Wow. I thought, this is it. This is big news, all these top people. But it was yesterday's news. Another day came and it just fell by the wayside. So I would like to think that what we have going on now in America is America's starting to come clean. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Thank you so much.
And
tell you, Malcolm, yes, we have talked about that many times in France and the press. You know that what happened with the UAP hearing of the Congress was a setback. Finally, Michael Graves, David Fravor, and David Grush were courageous, were brave enough to make the statements. Say, but you know very well that after that, the legal authority, which was the AARO, Ariel, I anomaly research office, right? Resolution office denied
That's
any finding, any knowledge of, for instance, what important issue that was raised by David Grush, among other say things, but he spoke about the special access programs that he had heard about. He had many direct witnesses about that, spoke about it. But Mr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who was the director, said, we have looked for the thing that Mr. David Grush has mentioned, but we didn't find anything. We didn't
Yeah,
find any
you
such
don't find
special
anything.
access program.
You don't find
What
anything.
do you
It's the
say?
answer.
Yeah, I mean.
So what do you say, Malcolm?
Well, I mean, again, we could speculate that he's a spokesperson. He's going to say that anyway. You know, yes, it's there, but he looked everywhere bar the right place. I don't think he's telling the truth. I think who's came forward so far are telling the truth. The Navy pilots are telling the truth. So when they say they didn't find anything, they would say that. You know, politicians lie, as we know. You know, they lie in France, they lie in Great Britain,
Yes.
they lie in America. So don't believe a word of it.
Can you tell us about it's an islands triangle case? Islands triangle case.
What one's that?
Islands triangle case.
Islands? Ireland? No,
Yes,
Islands,
island.
islands.
Island, yes.
I'm not aware of it, to be honest with you. The Ireland one.
Le triangle, on parlait de triangle des Islands. Je ne sais pas si le cas est connu ou pas.
There was a triangular case here in Scotland. Is this the one you're on about? The Falkland Hill case? No?
Il faut case in the islands, not classical flying saucer. Maybe triangle, maybe another craft.
Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to Ireland, you know, Ireland has seen its fair share of UFO sightings. I'm not aware of all the sightings. I just purely stick to the ones that come through, you know, to me. But when you speak about large black triangular cases, Jean, we have had that here in Scotland as well. Very, very briefly, in 1996, a mother and their friend they were in their farmhouse in Scotland, and they had ran out of coffee. So they jumped in the car with their 10-year-old son, David, and they drove to a small village. Now, this is a rural area of Scotland, just farmland, so it's not populated, not heavily populated. And on their way to the store, they became aware of a large black triangular craft with a kind of cupola on top of it. And it had a red light at each corner, each apex. And they stopped the car and they went, well, this is bizarre. And then suddenly it dropped down 2 spiral columns of light, came from the bottom of this craft, 2 columns of light, and hit the road and did a spiral dance on the road. And these women and the young son were terrified. So long story short, they got their coffee, and it disappeared, by the way. It just zoomed away. So they got their coffee from the little shop, and as they drove back to their farmhouse, the same or similar object came very quickly over their car, and the young boy was screaming out in terror. So they went back to the farmhouse, and the mother said to her 16-year-old daughter, Susan, you'll never believe what we've just seen. What have you seen? This strange UFO thing. And so the daughter says, rubbish, lot of rubbish. And she said, well, come out in the car. Maybe we'll see it again. So they jumped in the car and they went down behind a little village called Newton of Falkland in an area in Scotland known as Fife, F-I-F-E. And suddenly they saw there was a big trees, a big forest, and coming up from the forest was a red column of light, blue column of light, green column of light, like searchlights. It used to illuminate the Second World War bombers and the Second World War, you know, the illumination. But these were coloured lights coming up from the forest. And then there was a blue haze in front of the forest. And then suddenly that blue haze lifted And she said she saw hundreds, not 10, not 20, but hundreds of these small grey beings in this farmer's field. They were about 300-400 yards away. They were lifting boxes and canisters towards a larger structured object nestling in the woods. And overseeing this bizarre scene were these two very, very tall grey beings. And at one point, one of these grey beings put his hand down, the back of his hand down onto the grass. Why? We don't know. There was also a white ball of light about the size of a basketball floating in the farmer's field as well. And to the left of this bizarre scene was an area known as Falkland Hill. And there was a large orange ball sparkling and making noises above the hill and coming down over the field with all these small lights. It was absolutely incredible. Anyway, it's a big story. I'll be very brief. Back at that point, at that point, suddenly coming towards their car was these bubbles of light. If you can imagine a soap bubble about 6 feet tall, and encased within the soap bubble was two of these small grey creatures being moved across the farmer's fields towards their car. At that point, Susan, who was the skeptical girl, screamed. She said there was a small grey being standing outside the car, looking in the car. So they put the car into gear and they sped away from that area. And as they did so, behind the car was an explosion of blue light pervaded the whole area. And they went back to their farmhouse. Now, on one occasion, one of the witnesses, the mother, was running a bath for her son. So her son was upstairs and she was on the telephone. And she heard, Mom, come quick, come quick. So the mother threw the phone down. She ran up the stairs, entered the bathroom, and she says, what is it, son? And he said that there was a small white being standing there in the bathroom with jagged teeth. Very rare, jagged teeth. Then on another occasion, he was playing, this 10-year-old son was playing in his bedroom with a family friend, just playing with toy soldiers, when the family friend looked out the window and he saw this small grey being floating outside the window. It wasn't standing on any shed or part of the building. There was nothing. It was about a 30-foot drop, and this little being was bobbing up and down looking into the window. And there was a lot of triangular shaped craft being sighted, John, in this area over several weeks, not just by that family, but by other families as well. And we know that the triangular craft came into prominence in Belgium in 1980. And this was 1996, so it's several years later. But it would seem that these large black triangular shaped craft are massive. They can be massive, they're noiseless, they traverse slowly across the sky without making any noise whatsoever. And it baffles me what they are, yeah.
Thank you very much. Very strange.
Ok, François, on va terminer
Oui.
bientôt. Je vais demander à Malcolm de nous parler d'un événement ufologique qui aura lieu bientôt en Angleterre, et puis on va dire au revoir, étant donné que la
Bien sûr.
connexion n'est pas idéale, mais
Très bien.
il faut profiter
Thank you
du
so
temps.
much, Malcolm.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you very much, Malcolm. A last question. Thank you very much for. I hope we'll hear you another time soon, hopefully. Can you tell us something about the HUL, the OLM conference in a few days, or a few days ago? I mean, in HUL, the OLM conference. Were you attending or not?
Unfortunately, this is the first time I couldn't attend the conference because I'm not long back from Egypt. And so I didn't have the resources to go down to OLM. But I was in the Valley of the Kings. I was at Luxor Temple and Karnak Temple. So that was good for me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, no, it is important, Francois, to have a site about it. Did you talk to Philip Mantle, to Chris Evers? because it was a good. I suppose it was a great event. There were Whitley Strieber, Peter Robbins. Did they talk about you, or at least Chris Evers? What happened? What they spent time there?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard back from various people who said it was a wonderful, wonderful conference, and it was so magical to speak to Whitley Strieber and Peter Robbins. I mean, I've met Peter Robbins several times, and he's a lovely man, a lovely man. But yeah, apparently the conference was a great success. What I would like to say, Paula, Francois, and Jean, is you are doing wonderful. What you're about to do with your YouTube channel is fantastic. To get certain speakers from Germany, France, America, Scotland to talk about the cases.
Yeah, we want that.
Yes.
We want we want that. We want interview the ufologist and
From India
from India, also India,
yes, Malaysia,
Malaysia, Italy,
Yes.
Spain, and
I
also you, and also
around the world.
United Kingdom, because you have a lot of very interesting and comment dire, rare, des cas rares.
Yeah.
Yes, in a day.
Well, you have a case, very paranormal cases in
Yes.
United Kingdom.
Strange
Very strange
case.
and paranormal cases with in relationships with the UFOs.
Yes, yes, very much. But yeah, it's been a pleasure coming on your show. It's been
Oh,
It's a pleasure to us too.
It's yes.
Thank
It's
you,
a
thank
pleasure
you.
for me.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. So we'll talk to you sometime, and we'll have a lot of work to put subtitling for this beautiful interview, for what we are very grateful. But
Yes.
we don't know when it will be out, when the channel will come out, but it will, and so you will be one of the first interviews on the new media.
You are the first.
You're the first.
The first. Thank you.
I just
Thank
want
you very
people to
much.
Understand me. They'll probably need subtitles to understand me.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.
See you
Very-
soon.
All the best.
See you
Take care. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye bye now.
We'll listen to Dire Straits another time.